Yo, Jolt the Catalyst here. Today we're going to be going over how to perform the flare. For this move, a strong core helps keep the hips raised and it improves control. To strengthen the core, I recommend crunches, push-ups, supermans, static leg raises, and side planks. I personally found bicycles to be one of the best exercises for flares since they not only help with building your core, but they also strengthen your hip flexors at the same time so you can keep your legs up with ease. You'll also need good leg flexibility in the hamstrings and groin area as well. So be sure to do the straddle stretch, the half straddle stretch, and the oblique reaches. The cobra pose will help increase back flexibility. Both this and the oblique reaches will help with the range of motion for your hips, since it's important to get the hips as high as possible when they swing up from side to side. Most power moves start off with the basic technique known as the power rock. This step is incredibly valuable for generating momentum, so be sure to check it out by clicking here. I flare counterclockwise, but if you go the opposite way, make sure that you train in the opposite direction. We start the flare with the power rock. After taking a power step or two, take a step back and allow your weight to transfer to the now bent leg. You should be bending the same leg that stepped across the body. Take note of the upper body, which should be leaned over your unbent leg. This will help you transition easily from the high center of gravity of the power rock to the lower center of gravity of the flare. The hand that's going to be placed on the ground can be set parallel with the halfway point of the shin. It's important that the inside of the wrist faces the inside of the ankle. When you eventually put this hand down, most b-boys learn to place it directly at the center, in between the legs. I'd like to clear it up by saying that you can plant it anywhere between the center point of the legs and the unbent leg. Feel free to experiment with this, since this detail is really just based on your own personal preference. Your support arm should be swung back. This is mainly done so your planting arm can set into the ground firmly during the initial flare whip. It also turns the hips and slightly twists your core, which will also add to your momentum. Next, begin to unwind the upper body. Allow your first supporting hand to lower down to touch the ground. Keep in mind that the distance from the planting hand and the ground should be minimal, and the rate at which it goes to touch the ground should be gradual and controlled. As you put down the planting hand, push off of your bent leg so that your weight can slowly transfer to the other leg. At the end of the transfer, make sure that you're now resting on the ball of your foot so you'll be able to push off more easily. This motion should also have a little bit of a hip thrust to get your lower body moving in the right direction. As this is happening, allow the leg that was once bent to swing in a semicircle behind the body. You should feel your toe dragging in a perfect circle. The leg will continue its motion until the knee of the swinging leg touches the calf of the other leg. Your legs should now be in a figure 4-like position. Now lift the bent leg up so that the straight leg can continue with its momentum. I find it most helpful to think of kicking up at a 45-degree angle towards your shoulder. As you kick upwards, it may also help to think about tracing your foot in the shape of a ribbon. It's also important to note that when doing the flare at full speed, you should activate your core by flexing your stomach muscles super hard the moment the weight begins to transfer. This quick jolt of power will help pull the lower body from the back to the front. At this point, you may be wondering how to keep yourself from being thrown off balance from your momentum. Here are some things to keep in mind to help with that. The first thing to do is to imagine your arms as sturdy pillars. Since the arms are the only things that are holding you up, it's important that they remain strong and stable. Be sure to lock your arms at the elbows and place your hands shoulder-width apart from each other. The fingers of your hands can face away from each other, or they can be pointed at 45-degree angles. Don't flail the arms too far out from the body when you transfer your weight from side to side, since it may throw off your balance and it wastes energy. Instead, simply bring the hands up near the shoulders to conserve energy. Next is the diagonal lean technique. As you flare, there will be a point where the legs are positioned to the front right side of the body. To counteract the weight and added force from the swing, it's important to lean diagonally back on the left side. As your legs continue to the other side, you must lean diagonally back to the right side. As you do this, you'll realize that your upper body should rotate circularly throughout the entire duration of the move. Once your first leg has swung up to kick the shoulder, your other leg will travel along the front semicircular path. As it swings across, you'll have to quickly switch arms. To end the movement for one flare, put your other hand back down to the floor and swing both of your legs back to either a squatted position or a push-up position. The goal is to make all of these steps blend together smoothly. If you're comfortable with this and want to continue for multiple flares, swing your hips around by flexing the core and riding your momentum so your legs can swing back around. The hips follow a path that is in the shape of a side-to-side oval. It's good form to have your legs straight and fully extended, but in the beginning, it's okay to bend your legs when doing the flare. In fact, practicing with your legs balled up tends to be helpful in preliminary stages when you're still figuring out how to transfer your weight. So don't worry if your legs drag against the ground at first. Like most other power moves, it's generally preferred to not scissor the legs. Scissoring is okay to do in the beginning, but eventually you'll want the legs to stay in a fixed, wide position. The best way to address this is to pay attention to your thighs when you flare. This will help you make your flares get higher in the back and make the move look cleaner overall. Pointing the toes are optional, but doing so may give extra lift, since it flexes the calves, and when there are more muscles involved in a movement, the overall move typically becomes easier since it decreases dead weight. Some people are concerned about getting a lot of height in the front, but it's generally an okay practice to let the legs sweep low. A high front sweep typically results in a low back sweep, which can make comboing out of the flare more difficult. In order to get just enough height at the front of the flare, lean the upper body back by tilting the head back slightly as your legs come around to the front. In order to get sufficient height in the back, lean your weight forward onto the hands and tuck the head forward to face the floor. Another tip to help keep the hips raised when the legs are at the back is to remember to flex your lower back so that your spine is arched. One of the best exercises one can do to improve the height in the back when doing the flare is to get into the downward dog. But instead of stretching your hamstrings, focus on flexing your core so that your abs and lower back are contracted. With your feet together, come up on your toes by pulling yourself towards your hands. Pull the feet to the arms, raise the butt, flex the abdomen, and hold it for as long as possible. You can also do this by getting into a side plank and pulling the hips up using your obliques. The more it burns, the better. If you do the static hold consistently, your flares will be higher in no time. Another reason why it's most beneficial to focusing on getting more height in the back is because most flare combos rely on a high rear whip. This is where flexibility is most important, since your stretching range will aid with hip height as you come around to the back. So that's our tutorial for the day. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please be sure to subscribe, share, and like. If you've got suggestions for future tutorials, please leave a comment and let us know. And as always, thanks for watching and tune in next time for JOLT TV.